So the search for Nancy Guthrie is now into its second week, and honestly, the entire nation is watching. In this explainer, we're going to get past the headlines and really break down what's going on in this huge investigation. We'll dig into the family's desperate calls for help and explore some expert theories that suggest the person responsible might be hiding in plain sight.
And if you want to understand just how urgent this is, just listen to these words from Nancy's daughter, Savannah Guthrie. She said this in a really emotional video appeal. This shows you, this isn't just another story on the news, it's a family's absolute nightmare happening right now.
Now, this public plea, it's more than just a cry for help. You have to see it as a really strategic move in a case that has just been baffling investigators. So let's take a closer look at what Savannah is actually asking from the public.
You can tell this message was so carefully put together. Savannah isn't just asking for thoughts and prayers. She is making a direct appeal for information. When she asks people to report anything that seems strange, she's basically casting the widest net possible, hoping to get any lead, any clue that could help. Okay, so while the family is making their public appeal, there is a massive law enforcement operation working behind the scenes. And when I say massive, I mean it. Let's pull back the curtain and see what's really going on. The FBI has set up a dedicated command post just for this case, and it is operating at a relentless pace. We're talking 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This isn't some part-time search. It is an all-out, non-stop effort to find Nancy.
Think of this command post as the nerve center for the whole investigation. It's the hub where this incredible amount of data, from the family home, from interviews, from public tips, is all being collected and analyzed. Their job is to find the patterns, to cross-reference every lead, and then funnel the most critical info to the investigators out in the field. But here's where things start to get strange. As the investigation gets deeper, a really troubling question keeps coming up. Why is this case so different? Experts are pointing to several things here that just don't fit the typical patterns, making this a particularly tough puzzle to solve.
This is the central question that investigators are wrestling with right now, because if they can figure out the answer, it could unlock the entire motive behind the abduction and maybe lead them right to the suspect.
A retired FBI Special Agent Rob Gentry offered a really compelling breakdown of this. See, in a typical professional kidnapping, the whole point is money. The kidnappers give the family proof of life, some evidence the person is okay, because they want to get paid. They make communication easy. But in the Guthrie case, it's the complete opposite. There has been zero proof of life, no ongoing communication, and no easy way for a ransom to even be delivered. And that lack of proof of life, for an investigator like Gentry, that is a massive red flag. He says it's the single most alarming and unusual part of this case, and it completely changes the profile of the crime. It suggests the motive might not have been money at all, and that the person responsible may have intended to harm Nancy from the very beginning.
So, if this wasn't a professional kidnapping for ransom, then what was it? This is where the investigation takes a really fascinating and chilling turn. The lack of proof of life and all the other weird circumstances have led experts to a theory. The perpetrator probably wasn't a stranger.
Investigators believe the key to cracking this case is hiding inside what they're calling a treasure trove of data that the family already has. And we're talking about everything: medical appointments, service records for the house, daily schedules, routines. The theory is that the suspect had access to this info and used it to plan everything.
Okay, so how do you even begin to sort through a mountain of data like that? Well, they use what's basically an investigative funnel. They start with a super wide net, identifying every single person who had contact with Nancy or her family. Then comes the really painstaking work of filtering. They check alibis, look for inconsistencies, and slowly, piece by piece, narrow that field down to a much smaller group of potential suspects. And here's the kicker. The expert analysis says the suspect is almost certainly already in that pool of people. It's not a question of if they'll find them in there, but when. The person responsible is likely hiding in plain sight, concealed right within the family's own records and social circles.
So who exactly is in this pool of people? Well, think about it. It could be the contractor who redid the kitchen, the landscaper who came by every week, the delivery driver who knew her schedule. The investigation is going deep into Nancy's life, looking at anyone and everyone who had access to her home and knew her routine, going back weeks, months, even years. So, where does all this leave the investigation now? You've got the family just anxiously waiting for any news, and investigators are meticulously combing through all this data. What's the path forward from here? Right now, the investigation is in this incredibly grueling phase.
It's a relentless grind of connecting data points, chasing down every single lead no matter how small it seems, and just slowly but surely narrowing down that pool of suspects. For the investigators, it's a huge test of patience. For the family, it's just an agonizing wait.
And so we're all left with this one haunting question. If the person who did this is truly hiding in plain sight, what tiny, seemingly insignificant detail is going to be the key that finally unlocks this whole mystery? A forgotten appointment? A casual conversation someone remembers? What is the one overlooked clue that could finally bring Nancy Guthrie home?